This hearing will come to order. Senator Coons will be joining us, but since I have an opening statement, we want to make the best use of your time. Mr. Amin, I think I'll begin, and then we'll have Senator Coons join us for opening comments and then your testimony. This hearing, first off, I do want to thank Senator Coons for agreeing to hold this very important hearing and actually collaborating to build the case that Senator Graham, Chair Graham, and Ranking Member Feinstein would allow us to reconstitute the Subcommittee on Intellectual Property for this Congress. I appreciate the work that Senator Coons and I will be producing out of this committee, but also appreciate his continued collaboration on any number of matters before the Judiciary Committee. Our nation's innovation economy is facing what I believe are a number of challenges in the 21st century, from competition of state actors like China to confusion about what even's eligible to be patented. There are many issues Congress needs to address to ensure America's innovation economy continues to dominate the globe. I'd like to take a moment to outline my vision for the subcommittee in this Congress. And I think I speak for Senator Coons that it's a shared vision. It's an ambitious vision, one that matches the magnitude of the issues before us, though. First off, I want to tackle head-on in a bipartisan way, bicameral way, the major issues facing America's IP system. We will hold hearings on the need to reform patent eligibility standards, copyright office modernization, and reforms to the Patent Trial and Appeal Board to ensure that patent rights are treated the same way all vested property rights should be treated. Second, in the spirit of the former Chair Grassley, we will conduct rigorous oversight of agencies tasked with protecting our nation's intellectual property system, and we'll also have private sector people who have worked with the patents process come before this committee and talk about their own personal experiences to be instructed by that for any actions that we may take legislatively. From the United States Patent and Trademark Office to the State Department's Office of Intellectual Property Enforcement, no department or bureau is too big or too small for this subcommittee to take interest, and we will. Finally, I want to work hand in hand with Ranking Member Coons and hold hearings on how we will encourage more women, people of color, and small business owners and inventors to engage in our intellectual property system. Too often, people are left behind in our IP system, a devastating effect that costs our economy billions of dollars of potential growth. Like I said, I know it's an ambitious agenda, but it's one that I think we can accomplish on a bipartisan, bicameral basis. Now turning to today's hearing. We're here today to examine the 2019 Annual Intellectual Property Report to Congress. The report was prepared by the Trump administration's Intellectual Property Enforcement Coordinator, or IP czar, Vishal Amin. I want to thank Mr. Amin for being here with us today, and I look forward to your testimony. The annual report provides a comprehensive overview of the whole of government approach to protect and promote intellectual property both at home and abroad. While I'm sure we will cover many aspects of the 2019 report today, there are a few things in particular I want to focus on given their importance to the state of North Carolina. First, I'm pleased to see the increased focus the administration is placing on intellectual property protections in our international trade agreements. Oftentimes, we only think of increased market access for American companies in terms of physical goods and services, but it's actually much more than that. American companies have to know that a foreign market will provide them intellectual property protections as well. Without that, there's little incentive to engage in commerce in any foreign country. To that end, I was glad to see the renegotiated U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement that it contains the strongest intellectual property protections that I believe of any trade agreement to date. I hope that that's a sign of things to come. These include enhanced copyright and patent protections, as well as protections against misappropriation of trade secrets by private entities and state-owned enterprises. These provisions will continue to encourage increased trade, investment, and growth between our three nations, and I hope future trade agreements will use these provisions as a model. I also was pleased to see the United States Trade Representative take a more active role to protect U.S. intellectual property interests. I'm particularly interested in hearing from you, Mr. Amin, about the bilateral engagement with India and the status of USTR's 301 actions against China. In line with the administration's effort to protect American IP through trade agreements, I'm also interested in the steps we're taking to help foreign nations develop and implement their own intellectual property systems through the Department of Commerce's Law Development Program, the abbreviation CLDP. According to the report, CLDP worked throughout 2018 in Armenia, Bosnia, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Tunisia, and Ukraine to help those nations build a legal framework to protect and enforce intellectual property rights. I want to hear more about these efforts in this hearing and our continued dialogue. Finally, I want to hear from Mr. Amin about the enhanced enforcement efforts by the Department of Justice, particularly on the international front. The Trump administration has undertaken a number of high-profile efforts this year to prosecute foreign actors who are engaged in theft or misappropriation of American intellectual property. I'm pleased to see those efforts. They're long overdue. I regularly hear from companies, both large and small, as well as educational institutions in North Carolina about the way their intellectual property is being stolen, misappropriated, and used against them. That type of blatant theft cost our innovation economy billions of dollars every year, and if left unchecked, will lead to the decline of the United States as the premier hub for research, development, and innovation in the 21st century. I'm looking forward to hearing your testimony, Mr. Amin. And at this time, I'd like to turn to the ranking member, Senator Coons. Since this was the first meeting, I have an uncharacteristically long opening statement, so I spared you by saying the first half of it before you got here. But thank you for joining. And again, I thank you publicly for the work that you did to actually help us reconstitute this committee. I look forward to working with you on it.
And thank you, Chairman Tillis.